The case study that I'm going to be talking about is re-entering the game after a concussion. So just a summary of this case study, there's a football player, his name is Joel. He plays offense and defensive tackle for the Highview Cougars team. And during one of the games, he's having a fantastic game, making all these tackles. But early on in the game, he does have a head injury from a collision with another player and is taken out of the game immediately. So he comes out, he's injured, he's feeling a little bit dizzy, and he goes to get checked out by the EMTs. Shortly after, the coach notices that Joel is standing right next to him with his helmet in hand, ready, like he's ready to go back into the game. So the coach looks over at the EMTs and realizes that they're just sitting there. They don't really realize that Joel has left the bench. And he asks Joel, like, hey, are you fine? Joel says, yes, I'm good. Coach looks at them again. He asks Joel again, like, are you sure you're good to go back in? And Joel gives him the okay and puts his helmet back on, and coach puts him back into the game. Well, Monday at school, everybody's praising the coach and Joel, and the coach is really talking Joel up, saying how he did good, and just kind of praising him for going back in the game and really succeeding. But later on in the day, the principal finds the coach and brings him into a meeting with the principal, the AD, the coach, Joel, and his parents. The parents inform the principal, AD, and coach that Joel actually had received a concussion at Friday night's game, and that Joel, after coming out of the game, Joel doesn't remember going back into the game and finishing the game. And so his parents let them know, like, hey, Joel is going to be taking a few days off from school. And the coach is just sitting there worried, and now he has to explain to them why he let their son go back into the game. So the common sense solution for this is, while the coach, is obviously coaching a game, you also have other people who are surrounding you, trainers, water boys, water girls, other players, other coaches, assistant coaches who might not be as, I don't want to say as important, but they aren't there having to call plays and all that. The coach could have easily grabbed one of, the extra people around him and be like, hey, can you go talk to the EMTs for me? Can you let me know, what decision was made about Joel's injuries? Or he could have, simply walked over there, asked him himself, hey, what's the extent of Joel's injuries? Is he good to go back into the game? Is he not? But the coach should have found out more to an extent of what Joel's injuries were, because a football player, lots of football players, I know for a fact my brother is one of them. Most football players want to go back into the game and want to play, and they don't care if they have a broken finger, a broken bone, they've rolled their ankle. Most of them want to go back in and finish that game. And sometimes you can't always take the word of the player, because while they think they might not be hurting, you could injure them more than what they already are, and that's something you don't want on your conscience or want to be liable for, because those boys are in your hands during that time. And so that coach should have been that person to go talk to the EMTs himself to find out the extent of Joel's injuries, or even found someone else to figure out, hey, does he have a concussion? Is he good to go back into the game? If he's not, does he need to sit out the rest of the game? Just things like that to make sure that Joel is going to be good in the long run. The module theory that would best fit this is the consequential moral theory. So, while the coach is trying to make a decision, being a high school coach is hard. You're in the middle of the game, everybody around you is wanting you to win, you're getting down to the seconds, but you have a player that's right next to you that, is ready to go back in. You need to be able to, make a decision right then and there, like, do I put him back in? Is he good to go? Or does he need to sit and rest and just sit out the rest of the game? So firstly, the moral problem in this situation is determining whether Joel is actually fit to go back into the game. With that, coach needs to decide, does he have a concussion? I know he doesn't have a medical background, but he needs to know, he needs to decide whether he should let Joel go back into the game or if he needs to sit him out. So there are two possibilities with this solution or with this situation. So the first option is to, take the word of the player, let them go back into the game. I know you can ask them over and over, hey, are you good? Are you sure? Like, are you ready to go? They're going to tell you, yes, they're fine. So that first option is allowing Joel to go back in the game and just taking his word for how he's feeling. And then the second option here is the coach actually going and talking to the EMTs to find out more of an extent of Joel's injuries. I know that might not always be a done deal decision for the coach. They could be like, hey, yeah, Joel has a minor concussion, and the coach could be like, okay, cool, we're going to send him back in anyways, or no, we're going to, sit him out for the rest of the game. But the coach's second option should be to go talk to the EMTs and fully find out the extent of Joel's injuries and make the best decision off of those results, whether, it's a mild concussion, it's a severe concussion, he has a broken bone, he needs to sit out the rest of the game or not. So those two options are probably the best options for the coach to come to a decision. So the first option is going to be affected, it's going to affect Joel, because he's injured. Don't know the extent, giving him the okay. It's going to affect him, but also could affect the players. How Joel plays out there, whether he plays poorly could also affect the people around him, or whether if he plays great, it'll affect the players as well. But it also affect the coach. Sending him back in, he could get re-injured or more injured than he already is, and the coach would feel responsible for that. So you have those three key people that the first option of coach just putting Joel back in would affect. And then with the second option of determining, whether he should go back in, talking to the EMTs to know the full extent of his injuries, this option would, one, affect Joel. If the coach decided to sit Joel out, Joel could feel really hurt. He wanted to play the game. He has a love for football. He wanted to go out there and win this game with his team. Sitting Joel out could also affect the players. Sometimes you have a key player on the team that just carries everybody, and that could have been Joel, and that could have affected his team greatly, and they could have lost the game. So the second option is definitely going to affect the player himself, Joel, and also the players around him. It could affect the coach a little, knowing he made the right decision to sit him out based on the facts that he had from the EMTs, and it could also affect him if he had all the facts but still sent Joel back out there. So the best option that is going to, have the greatest amount of good for the people in this situation is going to be option 2. So the coach should have should get all the information affecting Joel, because not only is this affecting the team, you're also putting a player back out there who is already injured and could re-injure himself, or do more damage to his head than he already has. So option 2 is definitely going to be the greatest if the coach makes the best choice for the player. So with this decision, the way to engage on it is that the coach should not take, the player's word. He should always find out from the source, from the people who have, those medical degrees, who know what they're talking about. So if something like this were to happen again, the coach should find that the player's next to him. He can be like, okay, I'm going to go talk to the EMTs, figure out what is going on, what is the extent of his injury, is it mild, is it severe, does he, based on their medical opinion, does they need to sit out, are they fine to go back in? With that decision, the coach, or with that information, the coach then, can make the decision. Am I going to send him back out? Am I going to sit him out? And with that, he'll be able to make the best decision for the player. Thank you.